Welcome to Let Jesus Be Your Doctor, the true path to healing for body and soul.
For 2,000 years, humanity has looked back at a stone tomb in the ancient Middle East.
Right.
And we've called it the site of the greatest miracle in history. We point to this singular moment locked away in the past, and we build entire theological frameworks around it.
We really do.
But what if we've been looking in the wrong direction all along?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. What if the empty tomb isn't merely a historical artifact to be studied, but a literal active blueprint for your own cells right now?
That changes everything.
It does. I want to invite you, the listener, just for this moment, to let the noise of the world fall away.
Just let it go.
The frantic pace, the endless lists, the notifications, the heavy demands of the day, just let them be. Step into this space. Think of this deep dive not as an influx of more information for you to manage, but as a sanctuary of stillness.
I love that word, sanctuary.
Whether you are carrying physical illness in your body, emotional darkness in your mind, or simply the heavy, quiet fatigue of daily life, you are welcome here. Take a breath.
Just breathe.
Today, we are exploring the light of resurrection and the reality of healing in Christ consciousness.
Such a vital topic.
We're looking at a profound collection of spiritual texts and broadcasts originally shared by Radio Hellstrom.
Yes, an incredible archive.
These include the mystical revelations of figures like Bertha Dead, Bruno Groening, Louisa Picaretta, Thomas à Kempis, and the teacher Derek Prince.
A really powerful group of voices.
But our mission today isn't an intellectual exercise.
No.
We aren't here for a historical review or an academic debate. We are here to guide you into experiencing resurrection as an inner reality.
An awakening.
Exactly. The literal awakening of divine life within your own body and spirit. This is an invitation to step into a restorative divine stream.
It is a profound invitation. And to truly accept it, to allow it to wash over us, we must fundamentally shift our perspective.
Right. How so?
Well, when we approach these specific sources, we find a consistent unified thread that radically redefines the resurrection of Christ. The source text presents a proclamation that shatters our usual boundaries of time and space. It says the resurrection is more than a historical event.
Right. It's not just back then.
Exactly. It is an inner reality. It is the awakening of divine life in ourselves.
Wow.
This means that where Christ becomes alive within us, there's no death, no darkness, and no illness. He is the light that makes all things new.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
I want to speak softly here because that is a massive paradigm shift. It requires us to dismantle so much of what we've been taught.
It really does.
Usually when we hear the word resurrection, our minds immediately, travel backward. We think of a date on a calendar.
An event that happened to one person thousands of years ago.
Exactly. But if we stop looking backward at that historical tomb and instead start looking inward at our own lives.
At our own breathing bodies.
Yeah. How does redefining resurrection actually change our daily relationship with our own physical and mental struggles?
It changes everything, primarily because it shifts the entire mechanism of healing. It moves it from a passive hope into an active, present reality.
Active and present. I like that.
Think about the traditional posture of suffering. If resurrection is strictly a historical event, then we are entirely separate from it.
Right. There's a huge gap.
We are left standing in the present moment, looking up at a distant sky, begging for healing to be sent down to us across the chasm of time and space.
Almost treating God as an external force that we have to persuade to intervene.
Precisely. But if resurrection is an active, ongoing, inner reality, it means the power of life is already present within you.
It's already there.
Yes. Healing, then, is not something you have to convince a distant God to give you.
Wow.
It is the natural, biological, and spiritual consequence of divine light displacing the darkness within your own cells. It is the life of Christ literally waking up inside your physical form.
That makes me think of a very simple analogy.
I'd love to hear it.
Imagine you're standing in a dark, completely closed off room. If you want the darkness gone, you don't fight it. You don't try to sweep the darkness out the door.
Right, can't sweep shadows.
Exactly. You don't argue with it. You don't stand in the center of the room and beg the darkness to leave.
No, you don't.
You simply introduce a light source. And the moment the light turns on, the darkness ceases to exist.
It just vanishes.
Yeah, it doesn't put up a fight. It simply vanishes because darkness is not a substance of its own. It is just the absence of light.
That's beautiful.
That seems to be the foundational premise of Christ consciousness that these sources are pointing toward.
It absolutely is.
You don't violently fight the illness or the sorrow. You simply introduce the light, and the darkness cannot hold its ground.
That is precisely the mechanism at play. The illness, the sorrow, the crushing fatigue, they are the darkness in the room.
They feel so real, though.
They are real in your experience, yes, but they are not the ultimate reality. Christ consciousness is the light.
Right.
When the consciousness of Christ fills the space of your mind and body, the shadows simply cannot remain. They are displaced by the presence of a higher, more absolute reality.
But this naturally introduces a vital question.
How do we turn on that light?
Exactly. How is this inner resurrection actually initiated in a human life?
To understand this, the source material turns to the revelations of the mystic Bertha Dudd.
Right, Bertha Dudd.
She was a profoundly simple woman who received extensive inner dictations. She termed them a kundgab, which translates to a divine proclamation or message.
Messages detailing the exact spiritual mechanics of how this awakening happens within us.
Yes, and I want to share her exact proclamation.
Please do.
The resurrection is the awakening of the divine spirit in you. When my love touches your heart, life arises anew, and you will become bearers of light in a dark world.
Life arises anew. It sounds so gentle.
It does.
Almost like a sunrise, slowly cresting over a horizon. It isn't a violent conquering, it is an awakening.
An awakening, yes.
But I know that for a listener who is in deep physical pain right now, abstract poetry, even beautiful poetry, can sometimes feel disconnected from their bodily reality.
That's a very fair point.
Thankfully, the texts guide us deeper into the actual mechanics of this rebirth.
They do. Dudd provides a very clear architectural framework for how divine grace and human agency interact.
So it isn't just magic.
No, there is a process of union. In her revelation, Kundgabe number 3266, titled Spiritual Rebirth, she explains the specific posture the soul must take.
Okay.
This is the exact condition she lays out. The act of grace of spiritual rebirth is a proof of the rightly used free will. Reborn in spirit can only be the one who has consciously turned his will to God, who strives for him and connects with him through intimate prayer, and who therefore opens himself to receive his gift of grace, his word, and with the word, his power.
I want to pause here because I have to admit, hearing that makes me slightly anxious.
Anxious?
Yes.
How so?
There is so much depth in those words, but I am struck immediately by the phrase rightly used free will.
Yes, that stands out.
And the idea that we must strive. I want to push back gently on this on behalf of anyone listening who is just utterly exhausted.
I completely understand where you're coming from.
If spiritual rebirth and physical healing require my rightly used free will and my striving, doesn't that place a crushing burden on the listener?
It can sound that way at first.
If someone is sick and they aren't experiencing this light arising anew, this almost sounds like it's their own fault for not striving hard enough or praying intimately enough.
That is a profoundly important question.
How do these texts reconcile the gentle gift of grace with that kind of intense pressure?
It addresses one of the most painful misunderstandings in spiritual healing. When Dudd speaks of striving and rightly used free will, she is not talking about human effort in the way we usually understand it.
It's okay, that's a relief.
She is not talking about clenching your fists, gritting your teeth, and forcing yourself to be holy enough to earn a cure.
That would just be exhausting.
Exactly. The rightly used free will is simply the willingness to open the door.
Just opening the door.
Think back to your dark room analogy. The light is already outside the room, blazing. The light wants to come in.
Right, it's just waiting.
The light doesn't require you to build a sun from scratch. But you do have to choose to reach out and turn the handle.
You have to draw back the curtains.
Yes. That turning of the handle is the conscious turning of the will. It is an act of yielding, not an act of muscular spiritual lifting.
Yielding. That feels so much softer.
And when she mentions intimate prayer, she isn't talking about reciting cold, formal requests for hours on end to prove your devotion.
What is she talking about then?
Intimate prayer is vulnerability. It is opening the deepest, most exhausted, most hidden parts of ourselves to the divine and saying, I cannot do this on my own. I yield my darkness to your light.
That reframing changes the entire texture of her words.
It truly does.
So the striving is actually a striving to surrender. It is an intentional positioning of the soul to receive. And the takeaway here seems to be that when we make that conscious turn, when we stop fighting the darkness ourselves and simply open the blinds, the awakening of the spirit makes divine love visible in us.
Yes, it becomes visible.
Christ lives in every act of yielding, every act of trust, every moment of devotion.
He is there in all of it.
Healing doesn't arrive like a package delivered from the outside by a celestial courier. It blossoms outward from a union with the divine spirit that is already seated within us.
Exactly. And once we understand that the will must be turned inward toward this union, we are faced with the next logical threshold.
Which is?
We have a highly spiritual concept, the turning of the will. But how does that purely spiritual shift actually alter the biology of a sick body?
Right. How does it touch the flesh?
That exact bridge from the spiritual will to physical flesh is where the teachings of the renowned mystic and healer, Bruno Groening, come in.
Bruno Groening.
Yes. Groening takes this concept of inner union and applies it with staggering directness to physical suffering.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
It certainly does.
Because we are moving out of the purely ethereal realm and stepping directly into the blood, bone, and tissue of our daily existence.
We are.
Groening had a perspective on physical suffering that completely disrupts how modern medicine and even modern religion tells us to relate to our bodies.
He did. Groening didn't deal in vague theological abstracts when it came to illness.
He was very grounded.
Very. He articulated a very specific operational formula for how the spiritual light interacts with cellular biology. He promised this.
I'm ready.
Christ lives and he works. Whoever opens himself to him receives the divine stream of life. Then everything is possible. In this opening lies healing.
The divine stream of life, that is such a vivid kinetic image.
Kinetic is the perfect word.
It isn't a stagnant pool of holy water. It is a stream. It is moving. It has current. It has force. It washes away debris.
It is entirely dynamic. Groening teaches that the key to experiencing this current is living in the constant abiding consciousness of the reality that Christ is in me.
Christ is in me.
Yes. The source text makes an extraordinary claim regarding this specific state of mind. It states that Christ in me is the very power that makes everything new.
Everything new.
When a person holds this consciousness, suffering is transformed into light, pain is transformed into peace, and illness is transformed into divine order.
Divine order. I'd like to dwell on that phrase for a moment.
Please.
Because I think it is the absolute crux of Groening's approach to the body.
It really is the foundation.
Often when we are sick or in pain, we view illness as a malicious invader. We use the language of warfare.
Constantly. Battle, fight, conquer.
Right. We talk about battling cancer or fighting an infection. We view our own bodies as war zones.
Or even more tragically, some view their illness as a divine punishment for past wrongs.
That's heartbreaking. But divine order suggests something entirely different.
It does.
I like to think of it like an orchestra playing a massive, beautiful symphony.
Oh, that's a beautiful image.
If one section of the orchestra, say the cellos, suddenly falls out of tune, creating a harsh, dissonant noise, the conductor doesn't view that noise as an invader that sneaked into the concert hall to destroy the music. The dissonance isn't a demon to be fought.
No, of course not.
It is simply an instrument that has lost its tuning. It has fallen out of the conductor's intended order.
That makes so much sense.
Healing, then, isn't a violent war against the cello. Healing is simply the gentle, precise tuning of the strings back to their original pitch.
Tuning them back.
Yes, it is the return to the composer's divine order.
That's powerful.
I want you, the listener, to imagine your own physical ailments right now. The chronic aches, the autoimmune flare-ups, the heavy fatigue in your bones.
Just bring them to mind.
Try not to see them as enemies you have to wage war against today. Imagine them simply as areas of your body, specific instruments that have temporarily lost their tuning and are just waiting to be returned to divine order by that moving stream of life.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. When the stream of life flows in, the tuning happens naturally.
The conductor's in the room.
Exactly. Order naturally follows the presence of the conductor.
Right.
And while this concept of the divine stream and Christ consciousness may sound to some like modern mysticism or New Age philosophy, the source material explicitly anchors these claims deep within foundational Christian scriptures.
This isn't just something they made up.
Not at all. This inner awakening, this literal physical and spiritual renewal, is not a new invention. It is precisely what was promised in the biblical texts.
It is. The texts draw a direct, unbroken line between the revelations of these mystics and the red-letter words of Christ himself.
Yes, they do.
I want to read reverently from the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verse 25. Jesus says, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die."
If we synthesize that profound ancient statement with what Dud and Groening have shown us, we see that Christ consciousness is the living, breathing presence of the resurrected one in you.
In you, not just around you.
Exactly. It is no distant theological ideal. It is the divine reality standing up inside you right now.
Right.
The like he speaks of in that verse is not merely a promise of spiritual existence after your biological heart stops beating.
What is it then?
It is the absolute, indestructible, uncreated life of God animating your mortal flesh in this very moment.
And the sources emphasize repeatedly that this applies to our physical forms, our biology, not just our ethereal souls floating off to heaven.
That's a crucial distinction.
The Bible teacher Derek Prince offers a reflection on this, drawing from the book of Romans, to cement this idea that the divine stream affects the physical body.
Yes. Derek Prince points us directly to the Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 11, focusing intensely on the literal physical application of this grace.
I'd love to hear it.
Listen to this promise. The Spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? Let's make this incredibly practical. It means that the exact same power that emptied the tomb in Jerusalem, the most staggering, incomprehensible force in human history, the power that reversed cellular decay and defeated death, is available to flow through your bloodstream right now.
Right, yeah.
It is available to give life to your mortal body today, in this exact hour as you listen to my voice.
It's astounding when you really think about it.
Healing happens when we recognize and consciously receive this specific power, when we realize that we are not empty, broken vessels waiting for a distant God to notice us, but rather we are actual sanctuaries where the resurrection has already happened.
Sanctuaries of resurrection.
But I know there are people listening to this right now who have believed.
Yes.
They have prayed the intimate prayers. They have sought this stillness. They have strived to open the door.
I bet everything right.
And yet the physical tumor remains. The chronic pain is still screaming in their lower back. The darkness hasn't fully vanished yet.
That is the reality for so many.
I want to voice the reality of that listener. If the power is here and the stream is flowing, what do we do with the agonizing suffering we currently bear while we await the full manifestation of that divine order?
That is the most deeply human question of all. It is the ache we all carry, the tension of living between the promise of healing and the reality of present pain.
It's a heavy tension.
If we ignore that tension, this entire deep dive becomes hollow.
Agreed. So how do the sources address this?
To answer this, the source material introduces us to the profound, almost incomprehensible wisdom of the mystic Louisa Picaretta and the theologian Thomas à Kempis.
Okay.
They offer us what can only be described as the alchemy of suffering.
Alchemy is the perfect word for it.
It really is.
In medieval times, alchemy was the legendary process of taking something base, heavy, and worthless, like lead, and transforming it through a secret process into pure, luminous gold.
Yes, transformation.
How do these figures apply that concept to human pain?
Louisa Picaretta explains how the soul actually participates in Christ's resurrection when it resides in what she calls the divine will.
The divine will.
Her understanding of how our pain interacts with God's light is essential here, she says. In the divine Son of my will, everything arises to new life. Whoever lives in it bears the seal of resurrection.
The divine Son of my will. It brings us back to that image of light displacing darkness.
Exactly the same image.
But mechanically speaking, how does that actually interact with our pain? If I am in physical agony on a Tuesday afternoon, how do I step into that divine Son?
The insight she provides is staggering. The teaching is that every sorrow, every pang of physical pain, every moment of emotional despair that you consciously connect in love with Christ is immediately transformed to light.
Transformed immediately.
Yes, that is the deepest possible healing. It is resurrection already happening in the now.
Wow.
You see, the suffering itself literally becomes the raw material for the light.
The lead turning to gold.
Precisely. When pain is suffered in isolation, when we clench our fists and endure it alone, it leads inevitably to bitterness and despair.
It remains heavy lead.
But when pain is consciously surrendered, when you say, Lord, I unite this specific pain in my back, this specific grief in my heart, with your ultimate suffering, its entire nature changes.
It changes nature.
It becomes redemptive.
Yeah.
It is alchemized into grace.
It takes the terrifying meaninglessness out of the pain.
Meaningless pain is the hardest to bear.
Right. It gives the suffering a holy purpose. It means that Even before the physical body is fully returned to divine order, the pain itself is put to work, generating light in the spiritual realm.
Beautifully said.
Thomas à Kempis echoes this sentiment beautifully. He speaks directly to the suffocating fear that so often accompanies our suffering, the fear that our pain will destroy us.
He does. And his words offer an incredible comfort for that exact fear.
Please share his words.
He wrote, "If you have Christ in you, you fear neither death nor suffering. For in him the darkness becomes light."
For in him the darkness becomes light.
That's the alchemy.
If we reflect on Thomas à Kempis's concept of daily discipleship, we start to see it as a quiet resurrection.
A quiet resurrection.
We often think of resurrection as a dramatic, earth-shattering, visible event. But sometimes resurrection is the quiet, daily, almost invisible choice to let the soul awaken from the heaviness of the world into the freedom of the spirit.
It's those small daily choices.
I invite you right now to consider your own deepest fears regarding your suffering, the fear that it will never end.
The fear that means God has abandoned you.
What if you could let go of that fear right now simply by viewing your pain not as a permanent curse, but as raw material waiting to be turned into light?
Just waiting.
A quiet resurrection happening within you, breath by breath, ache by ache.
That breath-by-breath realization is the crucial bridge from understanding theology to actually experiencing it.
Experience is key.
Knowledge, no matter how profound, is only truly valuable when it is applied and felt in the body. The texts we are studying do not merely offer a philosophy to be debated, they offer a practice to be lived. They invite us, quite literally, into the stillness.
And we are going to step into that stillness now.
Let's do that.
We are moving our deep dive from conversation into a direct, guided contemplation.
A practice of the presence.
This is based strictly on the practical exercise provided in our source material. There is nowhere you need to be right now.
Nothing you need to achieve.
There is no one you need to perform for. I ask you to simply follow along at a gentle pace.
Just follow our voices.
If you are in a place where it is safe to do so, if you aren't driving or operating machinery, please gently close your eyes. We will begin.
Let's just take a moment of quiet together.
Speak silently inward to the very center of your being, not with your voice, but with your will. Whisper this: Christ, arise in me. Let your light drive away all shadows.
Just let those words settle.
Letting them echo inside.
Now, feel the divine life touching every single cell of your body. It is not an abstract idea. It is a living presence. It is ordering. It is strengthening. It is renewing. You are penetrated by the light of the resurrection, and this light heals. It descends upon you and fills you down to every single cell.
Just feeling that descent.
Holding the space.
Now, prompt your inward voice to whisper this truth, claiming it as your own reality. Christ lives in me. He is my light, my strength, my salvation.
Breathing that reality in.
Letting it anchor you.
Let this light flow deeper into you. Guide it consciously into your heart. Feel it warm, steady, and unshakable. Guide it into your spirit, illuminating the quietest, most hidden spaces of your mind where fear hides. Guide it into your physical body. Feel it traveling down your arms, flowing through your chest, pouring into your legs.
Just sensing that gentle movement.
A physical awareness of the light.
As we bring this light into our daily reality, let us practice breathing it in. Speak this softly in your mind. Lord, I open myself to your peace.
Exhaling slowly.
With every breath out, let the unrest go. Let the anxiety, the physical tension in your shoulders, the fear in your stomach leave your body.
Just releasing it all.
With every exhale, feel your heart sinking deeper and deeper into stillness.
Finding that quiet depth.
So very still.
The source text offers us a beautiful, vivid image to hold on to in this space. Imagine that your heart is a still lake.
A still lake.
It is completely calm. The surface is like glass. No thought must be moved, no worry held. There's only light that reflects upon the water. It is God's light, shining in your inner being.
What if thoughts interrupt?
If thoughts arise, as they naturally do because we are human, do not fight them. Do not get frustrated. Let them pass by like small clouds drifting over the lake, leaving the water entirely undisturbed.
Just watching them drift away.
Maintaining the glassy surface.
As you rest in this deep stillness, I offer you a final, simple anchor prayer from the text. Repeat this gently in your heart, letting it tether you to the divine stream whenever you feel yourself drifting. Your peace dwells in me.
Just holding that thought.
Resting in it.
Your peace dwells in me.
Letting the silence do its work.
Just being.
Slowly, gently, allow yourself to become aware of your physical surroundings again.
No need to rush.
Feel the chair beneath you. Notice the temperature of the air in the room. You can open your eyes whenever you feel ready. Gently coming back from the meditation.
Welcome back.
Over the course of this time together, you have received words of profound healing.
You've engaged in a real practice.
You have taken intentional steps of devotion, and you have experienced moments of true, deep stillness.
And now, the actual spiritual work begins.
The work of carrying it forward.
Exactly. The goal is not to leave this peace behind in this audio session. The goal is to carry this peace, this unshakable stillness of the lake, into your everyday encounters.
Into the rush hour traffic.
Into the difficult, tense conversations with family.
Into the sterile waiting rooms of doctors' offices. You carry the sanctuary within you.
Before we conclude, it is entirely fitting to seal this deep dive with the closing benediction provided in our source text.
I think we all need that blessing.
It is a blessing to carry with you as a shield and a comfort. May the light of Christ shine up in you and transform all darkness into healing. May your heart rest in love, and your spirit recognize that you were born of God, eternal, imperishable, full of light. Christ is risen, and he lives in you. Amen.
Amen. I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you step back into the rhythm and noise of your day.
Something to ponder.
If the resurrection is not just an event in the distant past, but an ongoing daily biological and spiritual renewal within your own cells, exactly as these mystics claim,
Yes.
how does that radically change the way you wake up tomorrow morning?
How does it change the very first moment?
When you open your eyes tomorrow and you take that very first deep breath of the day, will you view it simply as biology?
Just lungs expanding.
Will it just be lungs expanding with oxygen? Or will you consciously, intentionally inhale it as the literal intake of groaning's divine stream of life?
Will you breathe in the resurrection?
That is the invitation. Our journey through these sacred texts is not over. When we return to this deep dive in the future, we will explore the theme of healing through the word, when truth and light renew the heart.
It's going to be a beautiful continuation.
Until then, hold the light. Ensure your heart remains that still lake. Peace be with you.